Part 2, Connections Unexpected, written on the 8th into the 9th of December 2019. It was the image of Maya's joyful grace that set me on a journey unexpected through time zones, culture clashes, continents. As a child and an elder of African heritage, gave voice to the same sacred perspective, a world free from the calamitous curse of imperial hubris, greed, ignorance, where hate-fueled prejudice and bigotry will find no space to grow or flourish, where diversity embraced is celebrated by minds inquiring, well-informed, receptive, a world enriched by learning from others, where others become our sisters, our brothers, and this, no idle, impossible dream, but part of a common-sense, urgent agenda. Peace on earth, a precondition for our uncertain survival on this small, shining planet, one twinkling orb in a vast universe, a planet in need of intensive care, whose distress demands holistic redress. As carols joyful bring us together, let this agenda activated stem the tears of the child in the manger, a child who would surely bless the endeavors of women and men intent on healing wounds yielding streams of bleeding sorrow, because histories ignored or distorted spawn the sequels of endless tragedies. The Christ child, a helpless babe in a manger, knew warmth and shelter in a cattle shed, nourishing comfort from his mother's breasts and Joseph's calm protective presence. But today, in countries across the world, babes innocent, like King Herod's victims, are survival threatened, thrown to the wolves. So as we gather to sing festive carols, let us pray for the children and babes homeless, hungry, dispossessed, clinging fragile, brave to life. The Rohingya, unwelcomed refugee outcasts, genocide threatened, at breaking point. The Uyghur prisoners, detained in limbo, separated from family and friends in a coercive surveillance system, hearts and minds broken, reprogrammed, molded to conform to government diktat. The babe worshipped in his Bethlehem manger, whose own infant life beset with danger survived both exile and refugee displacement, weeps in shame, bidding us to do better. And the antidote to this circle vicious? Diversity embraced and celebrated in a world enriched by learning from others, where others become our sisters, our brothers, and predator tyrants are disempowered. This is my prayer. Please share it with me. And let us include a message urgent, a call to global healing activism, reaching across malevolent borders to end the agonies inflicted on babes in Yemen, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, and on Palestinian infants born dispossessed, deprived of a future, their present a struggle for sheer survival. Let us join hands, come together, resolved to work for justice restorative, while the lights, fading, have not gone out, and while time finite affords us the chance. Note: while Mr. Bombast and Bluster boasted that his recent election victory heralds the advent of a new golden age for his country, my thoughts turned once again to the children and babes, homeless, hungry, dispossessed, present in their marginalized, disregarded millions on British soil today, and on the unaccompanied child refugees with relatives on our sullied soil, yet denied homes and a future with them. The headline on the front page of The Observer for Sunday the 22nd of December 2019 read, "Home Office ignoring offers to give homes to child refugees. Despite," and I quote, "more than 1,400 offers from local councils to house unaccompanied children from across Europe, the Middle East and Africa." End of quote. On Thursday, December the 19th, a mere 6 days after Mr. Johnson's election victory, he informed Parliament that he was reducing legal protections for refugee children in his new Brexit bill. This legislation, secured with a majority of 124, and again I quote, jettisons a commitment in EU regulations that secures safeguards for asylum-seeking minors in Europe who want to reunite with family in the UK. According to The Observer's Home Affairs editor, Mark Townsend, current available data indicate, and I quote, that just 20 unaccompanied minors have been allowed into the UK under a scheme begun more than 3 years ago to resettle 3,000 vulnerable refugee children from conflict zones in the Middle East and North Africa. End of quote. In some of these conflict zones, Britain has played and continues to play, both directly and indirectly, a significant role. Barbara Ellen reminds us that in May 2019, Lord Dubs, and I quote, criticised the government for helping only 480 unaccompanied child refugees from Europe reunite with their families when the original pledge was to assist thousands. We are speaking of families who have been charged a home, ? Office, £1,012 citizenship fee, securing that hostile environment office, and I quote, a profit of £640 on each child. Quote ends. A policy whose effect has been to deter families from applying for citizenship for their children because they can't afford it. A policy that has just been deemed unlawful under a High Court ruling. Lord Dubs, a Holocaust survivor and active campaigner on behalf of refugee children with family connections in the UK, or rather DQ, Disunited Queendom, has spoken out against these legislative cruelties. The Christ child weeps with him. But we know tears will not suffice to change the continuing, and I, in quotation marks, hostile environment, end of quote, Tory policies directed at both native and refugee children, ensnared in the self-aggrandizing agendas of the local global 1%. And so, with New Year 2020 in mind, we know the struggle for justice, for democracy, for goodwill to all citizens must prevail. For this is what makes us alive and responsive to the challenges ahead. All the quotations that I have made can be found in The Observer of the 22nd of December 2019, pages 1, 5 and 33.